Ahoy folks, and welcome back to Broadside Gaming with me, Zug. So, Nightmares and Visions is out. We've had a look at some Ogryn talents, we've had a look at some Zealot talents. Now, it's time to look at the Veteran. So, this one is an ever so slightly modified Recon lasgun build, but it takes advantage of a few new things and also the autogun. So let's jump in and see what we're using, and then we'll have a look at the talents. So, first of all, melee-wise, we're using the Assault Chainsword. It's my favourite melee weapon to use on the Veteran because I don't like the dueling sword. That's not to say it's not good, I just don't like it. I find it a very boring playstyle. And also, with the dueling sword, yes, it's very, very, very good at deleting heavily armoured targets. It's not what we really need at the moment in this build. We're using the melee weapon as a horde clear. So you get overwhelmed by poxwalkers, you know, the Mobian affects and all that. The chainsword is what's going to help you get out of it, because you will cleave through everything and it just deletes trash. And that's what we want it for. So we're using the Mark 13G. Modifiers are as such: damage, finesse, shredder, and penetration. Lol. Mobility is our dump. Perk-wise, we're going with flak and unarmored, because flak is the most prevalent armor type in the game, and unarmored is probably the thing that's going to be annoying the most to this build. Blessings-wise, we're going with Shred and Wrath. Shred gives us plus 4% bonus critical chance on chained hit, stacking 5 times, and Wrath gives us cleave, stacking 5 times. Now, this is what I mean. As a veteran, the most dangerous position for you to be in is surrounded. So, just nice, easy clearing. Everything in this toolkit is meant to complement each other. Okay, so we don't need 2 weapons that can do the same thing. So that's literally what we're using the chainsword for. If you want to use the dueling sword, go for it. I'm not saying it's not good, I'm not saying it won't work, I'm just saying I don't like it. It is personal opinion. Next up, we have our main weapon, which is the Infantry autogun, more specifically the Vrax Mark 5. And on this, the modifiers are going to be as such: damage, ammo, stopping power, and stability, and mobility is the dump. For the perks, we're going with Unyielding and Maniac, because Unyielding is going to give us horrific boss damage, and Maniac, it's so that we can make sure we get down those high priority special targets and the Ragers, because they're incredibly dangerous. Blessings-wise, we're going with a Dum Dum, which gives us plus 6% close range damage and repeated hit, stacks 5 times. And Fire Frenzy, we gain plus 10% close damage for 3.5 seconds after killing an enemy at close range, stacking 5 times. So these blessings are going to give us a huge amount of power for having to do very, very little. While we're fighting with the rifle, these are pretty much going to be up most of the time. And last but not least, we're looking at the Curios. So we are using 2 twinned Curios here with plus 17% toughness, with 5% extra toughness, 4% ability, combat ability regeneration, and 12% stamina. And then the last one is a plus 21% max health with 5% toughness, 4% combat ability regeneration, and 12% stamina regeneration. And I will explain why I'm using stamina regeneration, but I will also say, if you want to, you can drop 2 of these stamina regenerations for Gunner Resist. Completely up to you. I've been playing mostly in the Mortis trials, where the Gunner Resist isn't as important, but if you're only playing in Havoc or only playing in the normal missions, adding a bit of Gunner Resist on isn't a bad idea. Okay? So you don't have to follow this, verbatim. It will still work. So if you wanted to take off 1 or 2 of the stamina generations, go for it. Now, let's jump into the talents. First of all, we'll start off over here on the left. Long shot, deal up to 20% ranged base damage bonus, reduce the nearer the target is to you. This is to make up for some of the blessings on the gun. So if we do have to shoot something at long range, we have this backing us up. And then into Exhilarating Takedown, replenish 15% toughness and gain 10% toughness damage reduction for 8 seconds on ranged weak spot kill, stacking 3 times. You can basically guarantee this is going to be up at all times while you're firing your weapon. And then into the middle, Close Order Drill, up to 33% toughness damage reduction, the more allies in coherency. Into confirmed kill, replenish 10% toughness on elite or specialist enemy kill, and a further 20% toughness over 10 seconds. Into a stamina boost, which this time we actually do want. Into toughness boost for 15 more toughness. Into the crack grenade. Now, again, I said every item in our toolkit is going to be complementing each other. The crack grenade is to help us deal with large groups of crushers and also monstrosities. This is going to give us a big damage push on those harder targets. But our ranged weapon can still deal with them quite happily. So if you want to, you can take out this entire part of the tree and put it into Shredder Frag, down into range damage boost, into can't catch your breath. I almost said something I shouldn't have done then. Into survivalist, and then into reload boost. So if you want to switch out this part with this part, it will still work. You'll just have slightly less damage on heavier targets for more utility and ability to clear out large groups. And then down into the health boost, and we're picking up Grenade Tinkerer, which is going to give us our crack grenade plus 50% more damage. Then into Fire Team for plus 5% damage for you and your allies' incoherency. And then into Toughness Damage Reduction, and then Demolition Stockpile. Now, I would say this is almost mandatory for most veteran builds, but if you really want to, you can put this point into Field Improvisation. It's a very good talent, but I would say this is slightly more mandatory than Field Improvisation. Then into Voice of Command, my favourite usability for the veteran, which is just going to replenish your toughness and stagger all enemies within 9 meters. Especially during the trials, this will become a very silly ability because you'll have up to 4 stacks of it with massively reduced cooldown. Then into Duty and Honor, Voice of Command now also provides you and your allies incoherency with plus 50 toughness for 15 seconds. This can exceed your maximum toughness. If you are new to Darktide, if you watch the blue toughness bar when I use Voice of Command, it increases it by plus 50, which is kind of like a small overshield or, overlap of the toughness. So we have slightly more for a short amount of time. And then we shall go and have a look on the right here. So we're going to grabbing the suppression boost that we have to take. Into melee damage boost, down into duck and dive, plus a 30% stamina on avoiding ranged attacks by dodging, sprinting, or sliding. Then down into stamina regeneration boost for 0.25 stamina. Regeneration delay reduction. This is also going to help, reduce the reduction. And then into the actual thing we really want, which is onslaught. Continuous hits to a single target applies 2.5% brittleness for 5 seconds to the target, stacking 16 times. This works out to about 40%, I think, off the top of my head. Now, brittleness is a rending that you apply to a target. Rending is applied to you. Brittleness is what you apply to the target. So this is applying a big debuff to the target to make it easier to kill. Now, over here on the left, range damage boost into precision strikes for that 30% weak spot damage, into dead shot, the new thing that we are taking, plus a 25% crit chance and plus 60% sway reduction while your ranged weapons alternate fire, your ranged weapons alternate fire, but lose 0.75 stamina per second and additional 0.1 per shot. So all of this has suddenly become very, very useful. And this does actually increase your damage just very stupidly. It's massively overpowered at the moment. They may end up nerfing this, but for the moment, it's quite powerful. Then into fully loaded for plus 25% ammo, and then into superiority complex for 15% base damage against elite enemies. Now, through the middle, into For the Emperor, your combat ability gives you and your allies incoherency plus 10% melee base damage and plus 10% ranged base damage. Into Tactical Awareness, combat ability cooldown reduced by 6 seconds on specialist enemy kill. Into Iron Will, plus 50% reduced toughness damage, if above 75% toughness. This is actually incredibly stupidly powerful, especially combined with Tactical Awareness, which gives you your ability more often, and this is what's going to keep our toughness pumped up, along with basically everything else in the tree. And then down into Toughness Boost, and then into Bring It Down, plus 20% damage to Ogryns and Monstrosities. And then last but not least, into focused target, which gives us gain focused target every 2 seconds, stacking 5 times. Tagging enemy applies the focused target stacks to them, causing them to take 4% additional damage for each stack, and resets your focused target stacks to 1. It's literally, you're just debuffing the target. So, why does this work so well? Well, because of Deadshot and also because of brittleness. So, let's try it out on just a normal Reaper. As you can see, it's quite effective. But when you're using it again, say, against the Crusher, it's kind of a slow boil. You can hose it down, but it's a bit of a chore. So now let's try aiming down sights. And we'll try that again when it's at full health. Tag it. Yeah, you can basically just destroy these things. Yes, it requires you to aim down sights, but with everything stacked up, you do quite a bit of stupid damage to it. And as you can see, our stamina regenerates incredibly quickly. So the downtime on Deadshot isn't massively high. With everything rolling, things just fall over. But like I said, we've also got the crack grenade, so if you need to, you can make things go away. The crack grenades are very good, especially if you throw both of them at a monstrosity and then lay into it with your ranged weapon. But it's a very silly build. I really enjoy it, and it's made the autogun a bit more relevant now, as mostly this build was run with the Recon lasgun, but now the Infantry autogun is pretty damn good against all targets. Oh, Jesus. Sorry. Kitten just came flying in. Anyway, yes, Infantry autogun. I've been having a lot of fun with this in the trials, and I've been doing a bit of havoc with it. It seems to work really well. Yes, you will use a lot of ammunition with it, but in the trials, not so much of a problem, especially if you go with Death Dealer or whatever the damn thing's called. I don't remember. But there you go, folks. An updated version of the Veteran. Now, you can use this build if you want to with the Recon lasgun. If you don't want to take the autogun, it works just as well. You have slightly more ammo, but you do have to take Shock Trooper, which means you kind of need to drop something somewhere. And for that, at the moment, I don't know. Maybe Superiority Complex into Shock Trooper. Because critical hits with lasers consume no ammo, and this is a very crit-heavy build. It's a priority take, so maybe take that instead of Superiority Complex if you want to take it. Let's just have a look. Infernus and Dum Dum, there we go, that'll do. So exactly the same build, we've just changed 2 talents there. It does eat stamina a lot faster. Let's just wait for that to stack back up again. Because you're hitting so fast, the extra usage per shot is quite heavy on you. But also, if you look at the ammo, we haven't touched much of our ammo. That's pretty ridiculous. What, 18 shots to drop a Crusher? And even without Deadshot rolling, it's still pretty ridiculous. Let's try that again. This is really helping with the conversation. Having lots of ammo. Jesus, I can't speak about it. Anyway, I thought I'd show you both weapons. They both work very well. It just requires one switch of a talent to use either one. So there you have it, folks. The updated Veteran build. I do hope you enjoy it. And if you do, please do like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. It really does help us out. And I shall see you all for the next one. So until then, take it easy, and I'll see you later.